Hello, people, and we are back again after another win, 5-5, and I'm with two lovely gentlemen here to discuss this game and break it down after transfer deadline day came and went without action. So let's talk Villa. Let's talk about Douglas Luiz now. Let's leave him alone. But let's talk about what we happened this game and how are these two lovely lads doing. So how are you doing, boys?
I'm good, man. Not too bad. Look, I'm super excited to talk about the game because I felt that was our best 90 minutes that I've seen. I was just telling you guys off stream for a while. If not, you know what? In terms of Mikel's reign, we've always played halves very well. You know, the Wolves half comes to mind. West Ham away comes to mind with Odegaard playing really well. A Leicester half at home comes really well. But, I think across 90 minutes, the absolute tempo that we did to really force the issue was phenomenal. Like I haven't seen us play with that kind of tempo years now, even going back to Wenger days. I was really impressed. Granted, I think Villa are really poor. I think they're a team that clearly don't know how to press. We kind of highlighted in the preview in terms of the issues that they would find and the gaps that they would find, but still in terms of how we approached the game, in terms of how we controlled the game, it was excellent. It really was.
Chris?
I'm good. Obviously we won 5 in a row, first time since 04, 05.
18 years.
Yeah, it's good for the team to do that. It's good to build confidence going into the game that we have this weekend because it's another chance for the team to right some wrongs of the past where we haven't done consistent runs in the past and we haven't beat United a lot at their ground in the past. So yeah, and it was a good performance, a very good one. A lot of players performed, the players off the bench were decent. We didn't get any new injuries, apart from the doubts about Ramsdale. But no, I'm good. I'm feeling good.
All right, let's get into it. So first of all, I don't know how many times we said last year, but 5 games on the bounce, 5 wins on the bounce is what the benchmark is for a very, very good team. So to see us go 5-5, it's not only just to start the season, we're putting away teams that we need to put away. So the likes of Fulham, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, massive game, especially away from home. Now Aston Villa. A lot of these games have been games we needed to win because that's how you win top 4. You win top 4 by beating teams outside the top 4 essentially, and making sure that you take as many points off your rivals as you can. Like if you looked at the top 6 fixtures last year, we split with 3 of them. So with Chelsea, United, and Spurs, and then lost both home and away to Chelsea and City. So the interesting thing to me is 5-5, putting away teams we need to put away. Palace away, one of the defining performances of last season, put away nicely. So interesting times to talk about. And then for me, I posted on Twitter about how this next game, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but the next game, win that game, and you're starting to think, okay, what can this team achieve? Because to win your home games against these top 6 clubs is the minimum, not minimum, but that's what you should be aiming to do, split the difference and a chance your hand at making sure you're more consistent outside of these rivals. So this kind of game against Villa is very important. So I wanted to get your thoughts on 5-5.
I think just really, really quickly, I think going 5-5 cannot be understated. When you simply look at the last teams to do it, and you just look at simple historical facts, nothing. Chris, you put up a great tweet in terms of outlining the number of teams that have done it, and there's only been 11 teams that have done it, and there's only been 1 team that has been able to do it and not get top 4, and that was Newcastle in the 90s with a game. Or with a season rather that was 32 games as opposed to 38 games. And so just on pure historical fact, we would have to break precedent to not get top 4 by simple nature of what we've done and what we've done to put ourselves in a position to do. I think when you start looking at October, you start looking at November. I did say, in previews previously that us winning and accumulating maximum points between now and the World Cup is what's going to define our season in terms of top 4 or not. And that is still the aim, despite what people really wanted to do post-transfer window. And no, what was the aim for this team was securing both top 4 and as well, for me, getting that European trophy. That was the objectives for this season. And if you're purely looking at the league, accumulating the maximum amount of points Pre-World Cup is going to be the most important thing, because after the World Cup, I'm thinking that consistency with injury is what's going to decide points. It's not going to be tactics, and that is going to be a point in contention in terms of which squads can be the most fit for the longest. And that's really what's going to take teams to the next level after the World Cup. But before that, it's going to be an even playing field, and everyone's having the same hard schedule. By the way, everyone's doing the exact same things, but I think accumulating the most that we can do will give us a cushion later on in the second half of the season to account for injuries, to account for times when the team isn't able to up its level as much as it can due to fatigue. That will creep in a lot more as the season goes on. A lot of people get worried when they see the jam schedule of October. Ironically, this is probably the best time fitness-wise and medically that players are going to deal with this kind of thing. In the very short term, they're just coming off a preseason. They're in the groove now after having played 5 game weeks. And so they're in a point to kind of ramp up load management. And really what people don't understand with injuries is that it's very typically a chronic issue. It's very rare that you get these physical impact injuries that boom, you're gone. Can they happen? Sure. But they're not really common. A lot of the times when you see muscle sprains, muscle tears, all of that happens from consistent load management and them tweaking things, but because of long-term use and playing through things. So for me to accumulate that was huge. And for me to actually go 5 for 5, it's immense. It really is. And, I really think that going 6 for 6 is a massive statement of intent to the league, breaking a hoodoo at Old Trafford. And, we won't get too much into that preview, but we haven't done something there since 07 properly, but we've actually had a really good record against them in short-term memories. So, regardless of that, we do well against them, but just at Old Trafford, we seem to struggle a bit. But to basically go on and produce the performances that we're doing, though, it's been a linear progression in terms of how well we've played. I would argue that even at the beginning of the season, we've done really well to play in spurts still, but there was things to tweak. I don't think White was overlapping with enough vigor, which is something that we're going to be looking at, by the way, in these kind of screenshots when we talk about Villa. When White was continuing his excellent form, staying high and wide, it was really important to allow us to collect those second balls from Aston Villa. And, he's been doing it since Bournemouth. I was having these interactions on the timeline that, people are saying that, Tomiyasu can overlap a lot more than Ben White. And no, that factually Ben White has overlapped with great consistency in the last couple games. He's done it Bournemouth, he's done it Fulham, he's done it in Villa as well. And, we'll highlight it again now because it's been really, really good to see. It allows us to squeeze the pitch and really make sure that our twin towers and Gabriel and Saliba are the ones responsible for sweeping any long balls that go into the channels. And, I think when we break down some of the tactics today, I think the half space off the ball runs that Arsenal did is what tore Villa apart. We mentioned in the preview that there was going to be a lot of space. We exploited it perfectly.
But yeah, on the question, which was, what do you think of 5 for 5? I thought it's very good. The only reason I checked is because I really wanted to see how many people actually did use. So how big should I feel about this accomplishment of getting 5 for 5? Obviously, the people who usually tweet the stats after games didn't really tweet it. Like the Premier League, if someone equaled a record like that, where only 11 teams in Premier League history of all the 30, there's been 30 years, 20 different teams, so 600 different types of teams have played in the Premier League and only 11 have done it. I thought they would tweet about it, but they didn't. So I just wanted to see how big it was, and it's a big thing. 12 teams were one of them. Now 11 managers, because Klopp has done it twice. So 11 managers have done it, and Arteta is now one of them. So I think it's very good. I hope the team know how good they've done of a start. It doesn't matter the teams you're facing, because City haven't played a big team like that yet, and they didn't win all their games. They drew to Newcastle. So you get what you're given and you deal with what you're given. And other teams have gotten the same type of teams as us. Like West Ham are rock bottom. Spurs faced them and they didn't win. So, and Fulham, for example, who we should have beaten, have the 6th most goals in the league. They've been a big threat so far at the start of the season.
They drew against Liverpool.
Yeah, they drew versus Liverpool. They scored 2 versus Liverpool. They beat Brighton. So, Fulham is a good team, for example. But yeah, I think it's very good. And the teams we've beaten aren't as easy as people are saying, because there's not really an easy game in the league, as we've seen with different results this season.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into it, I just want to say about how I think there's a lot of hyperbole going on about where we expect, where a lot of people expect after the window, because it leads on from there. I think a lot of people are going, oh, we're in a top four race. A lot of people going, we're in a title race. A lot of people saying we're in a top six race. I've seen that quite a bit. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see where we are. And the thing is, when you have games come in thick and fast, it's not as it's not as much like tiredness, it's the after effects of those games. So when you're in these moments where you have 3 games a week, it's mostly the after effects of those performances, like the games after. When you're in that sort of groove, a lot of players will tell you when you're in that sort of groove, especially when you're winning, you just want the games to come thick and fast. There's an atmosphere around the place. It's more when you see what happens after, so like in December or January, when after the World Cup, and you'll see how these players um, like adapt. So it will be interesting to see. But we're here to talk about Villa, because Villa was a very complete performance. I would say. I think a lot of people, the narrative this season has been control, and if you want to talk about controlled performance, it was a very very controlled performance. How do you guys think that over 2 halves do we maintained our performance and our levels?
I think we did very well to consistently dominate the game. Obviously, the first half we had 15 shots and they had two. It was very similar to last first half when we beat them 3-1. We had 14 shots and they had zero. But the difference is we continued getting shots and continued to create chances. In the second half, we created at 2.5 xg by half time, which we only did seven times the whole game last season. So we've very much dominated the first half. We didn't take our chances again. We scored in the first half, and we'll get into that goal, but we wasted a lot of chances, I think, in both halves, with Jesus having a lot, Martinelli having a lot. But I think the sustained pressure allowed us to stay on top the whole game. And Villa only really had small periods of dominance. But when they were dominant, we just had, it was a back and forth, like a basketball game for like a 5 minute period. But apart from that, I think we did very well for 90 minutes to sustain pressure, pin them back, and not concede big chances.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think when you look at it, I kind of sent out a tweet earlier today where, Arsenal have been fouled the most in the Premier League, so far, and it's been 63 fouls, 10 of which have been yellow cards. And I think it's an indirect measure of basically our opponents not being able to handle the tempo that we're playing with right now. Who's that down to? Well, I think Martinelli's improvement this season in terms of his technical security under contact has been absolutely immense. I think Gabriel Jesus has added absolutely a different dimension to what we can attack with, but we're just moving with a lot more fluidity. And I think that added verticality in terms of that, plus Eddie Nketiah's improvement. I think with his cameos, we constantly see he's just a different player, and he adds this vertical nature, but also adds this security and contact in the final third. And for me, we've always been very good at second balls last year. I think that was the story that I kind of came away with, and we've done very well, by the way, to continue that. In terms of this season, like we've worked off that strength, but then we've added this kind of technical security in the final third, and that's the formula for how you're going to sustain pressure, right? And so when you look at those three players, Jesus, Martinelli, and Nketiah, those are really three players that I think are new to the squad that have really added to that aspect of being secure. And I think it all helps in terms of our tempo. It helps in terms of what we're able to do up the pitch in terms of staying higher longer. But one of the big things that I'll probably transition to, and I don't know, Curran, if you wanted to add some stuff, but like I wanted to highlight how Villa changed for us. They actually changed what we perceived them to do, and Steven Gerrard definitely respected the quality that we were attacking with. In terms of going back to a more traditional 4-3-3, when you looked at McGinn, Ramsey, and Kamara as the middle three, which he didn't do, and then he had Ben Buendia out left wing, and then he had Watkins and Bailey inside. And I think what really caused a lot of problems was Tierney's movement. A lot of people keep highlighting, Kieran Tierney's defensive capabilities, which have been excellent, by the way, since he's come back. But a lot of people have felt, okay, in the final third, and technically he's been kind of miss and hit. But I really disagree because of the off the ball movement that Kieran Tierney was offering to us, which is really, really excellent. If you were looking at it, Bailey didn't know whether to stick or twist. Xhaka was continuing his excellent form in terms of being high and wide, but also as an option. And what was happening was Ramsey wasn't able to really deal with the movement between that pod, between Tierney, Xhaka, and Martinelli. Cash, Ramsey, and Bailey weren't able to contain that entire left-hand side. And, they were really fouling. And you kind of saw that when, Ramsey got fed up in the early exchanges and did a really dangerous tackle on Martinelli that was high. And that was just born out of frustration about them not being able to track runners and getting ripped continuously through that side. And I think the idea was that Gerrard wanted to go a little bit more man-to-man in terms of McGinn would be a little bit more responsible, isolating Odegaard, and he would follow Odegaard. Ramsey, in ideal terms, would go and follow Granit Xhaka when he dropped in. But the thing was, Tierney would drop inside into that 2, where we built with kind of a back 3 of Gabriel, Saliba, and White. And then Tierney would drop into midfield along with Sambi Lokonga. And, they kind of used their midfield 3 and their attacking 3 to really box out any kind of central progression. But it wasn't really working because Tierney's movement was phenomenal. And, he was causing all sorts of problems. And as well, that interchange between Xhaka about who would go high and who would come inside was excellent. The understanding was fluid, and that's really what ended up opening the gaps in the middle of the park.
Yeah, I mean, what Villa did was interesting. I mean, obviously we were outrunning them quite easily, and the United previous for tomorrow. We outran them, and I think they resorted to kicking us basically. A lot of ugly fouls, a lot of kicks. Douglas Luiz, Boubacar Kamara, all of these they just basically couldn't handle what we were giving to them, and they basically had to try and resort to kicking us basically. And it's a tactic. Some teams just have to do it, and I mean, it's unless the referee gets a handle on it, then there's not much they can do. The issue I have is when we were attacking, I feel like they didn't know whether to either come narrow or kind of go wide with their block. At times they were very narrow, and at times they tried to overload to one side and try to basically press on one side and then leave gaps. There was no succinct a plan behind their block. I feel it was very haphazard and very sort of okay, we're going to try a lot of different things and try and adjust, but there was no compactness. I feel they left a lot of space centrally, and when they didn't leave space centrally, and thank you for the donation, but it was much better Ben White in this game. I think George was going to highlight that later, but there's just a lot of things that need to be said in terms of leaving spaces in terms of out wide and centrally, because they were a bit too haphazard with their block, and when we penetrated it, they just basically resorted to kicking us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think thank you so much, by the way, again, Hardy. We really appreciate the super chat. And you know what? Ironically, we had a little Ben White segment. I was talking about it off screen. So we might as well just get into it because you've kind of asked, Ben White was far better in possession. But guys, it wasn't just in possession. It was also what he was doing out of possession in terms of how he allowed us to control the second ball. And so what Ben White was doing, which was, phenomenal, was he really stepped up into midfield quite often. And I've been warning, people that, this is something that we're going to see from Ben White quite a bit, and he has the capability to do it. And so when Lokonga is in there, he's basically in charge of ensuring that there is no out ball inside centrally. So McGinn would drop deep in this instance, and it would obviously be on the opposite side in terms of Ramsey if it was on the left. But here on the right, what you see is McGinn's going to drop in to provide a central option for them. And our press right now off the ball, Ben White is absolutely very aggressive in terms of meeting the high marker and Digne out wide to ensure that we're basically forcing high pressure back into the channel where the press is coming from Saka. And so the ball is being swung out wide. And what Ben White was doing was phenomenal all game. He was ensuring that he was providing an option on the overlap, which seemed to be something that was really, really good in possession. But his variety and his crossing ability has been excellent all game. And, this is something that I think I wanted to highlight specifically on Ben because, Kieran had a little bit of a separate role on the left. And so while out of possession, he did similar in terms of just having what you see here on Ramsey opposite side. He was a little bit more involved in possession in that double pivot. And, Ben White was more responsible for providing a little bit more of the width because Martin Odegaard seemed to drop quite a bit into the touchline options and kind of prefer to dictate play there. And so it really relied on Ben White ensuring that he had that overlapping option so that Saka wouldn't be isolated. And, Saka was back to his best in this game. So for me, tactically, that was a big battle that Villa really struggled to kind of understand. And then just really quickly, I want to talk about the press before I guess we get into highlights. But this is the press that, Aston Villa really went with. They had a 4-3-3 press, but it was really flat in the middle of the park. And their frontline options were making sure that they were kind of trying to guide players wide. And they were really trying to block the entry pass. But you can see Kieran Tierney really quite high here. But Gabriel Jesus is just somebody that I want to highlight. He's somebody that was dropping both on the left and the right half spaces. And I talked about it a little bit earlier on in the stream where the movement in the half spaces is really what killed Aston Villa because despite having a really good idea of a press here, what they failed to do was track their markers well enough. And so Granit Xhaka's up high trying to provide that width while, Martinelli is going to be the one out wide. And then Granit Xhaka is going to run in the space beyond so that we can keep having the space in those half spaces higher up the pitch. And I think, again, this is kind of what you saw from Aston Villa and their attempt. But from our perspective, Arsenal were a lot more responsive in a 4-2-3-1 press. And so really what that was, it was very simple for what we did last year. We basically sat Odegaard on the DM or the entry pass, which was Kamara, that we highlighted in the preview was basically their major progression. And we had Jesus doing his free kind of role, but Martin Odegaard was in a man-to-man on Kamara consistently. And, Bukayo Saka would make sure that when the ball went to Ings, he was making a banana U-shaped run to kind of force the ball out wide. And we kind of showed what Ben White would do in response. So if that ball was transitioned to Mings here, you would basically go see this and then have White block this. And what happened is Lokonga is going to be the second kind of cover shadow that's going to follow up and make sure that that second 8, who is the second out ball that's going to come and drop deep, doesn't get it. And here you see that basically Villa have 0 options besides recycling the ball back. And, this is what was really important in terms of making sure that we kind of sustain pressure up high. And, of course, the same thing would happen on the left. You'll just see instead of Lokonga, maybe there, Kieran and, Xhaka would take turns in terms of making sure to mark whoever was dropping in deep. But Martin Odegaard did an excellent job off the ball. In terms of making sure it was a 1v1 man marking job on Boubacar Kamara. And this, for me, was the big difference in Villa tactically in terms of what we saw. So they weren't able to really dictate play. And it was very rare that we saw ever Villa get into something like this, which is really what they're good at in terms of building in their 2-3-5. They never were able to do that. And that was because of our press off the ball. So that's kind of the big tactical story that I noticed really well. Sorry, Grant, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I know. I just realized I'm on mute. What I was saying earlier about leaving spaces in essentially and wide is because of the off the ball runs that we were making in the half spaces. So you could quite easily get between the lines in their press and create spaces into getting into spaces where we can exploit their weaknesses. They left space out wide, but their compactness essentially wasn't really didn't really do anything. The idea of a press is there, this positioning was there, but the off the ball running that we provided allowed for us to really exploit the weaknesses in the lackadaisical press that they did offer. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to expand on that. In terms of what Ben White did, I think there's a lot of narratives going around that he doesn't overlap, which is a complete. I don't know even know what to say about that. It's just not right. I mean, especially in games against Fulham. I think he was more reserved against Villa, and the heat map shows that as well. He was a bit more conservative against Villa, but against Fulham, against Bournemouth, he was making overlaps back and up and down the line. So definitely he's someone that can overlap, and I think it'll be good. We have 2 overlapping fullbacks in Tomiyasu who can also do it, but he also likes to make that underlapping run or stay a bit further back and provide that transition control as a transition control defender. Got that out. But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting debates in terms of what White offers us as a comparison to what Tomiyasu offers us. I think Tomiyasu offers more of a complete fullback. I think Ben White offers us more of a I think a more consistent overlap, but less of sort of like the transition control defending. I think that that's more Tomiyasu's strength, and obviously Tomiyasu's better in the air. But Ben White has been very good in his ground duels. He's been very good
I kind
going
of,
forward as
Curran, like
well.
really quickly, like I don't know, like we can have like a really small debate because we do have to get into the highlights. But for me, like
Hmm.
there's been a debate in terms of Tommy and Ben White in terms of what they offer. But I think it's very clear that Ben White's a far more dynamic option, which means he has greater straight running line power, and he has a little bit more flexibility in terms of his variety of crossing. Like the one thing that I've noticed with Tomiyasu is despite being ambipedal and despite having great touches on both feet and being really secure and build up her possession, we've seen instances of him crossing, but I haven't seen the same variety that Ben White shows really well. He has excellent ball striking in terms of cutbacks down on the floor, but as well as that half space crossing. We've seen it so far, and he has great variety to it, but I don't know if Tomiyasu has. The one variety was that excellent goal against Southampton for Martinelli when he receives wide and he clips it over the top, and Martinelli hits it first
Newcastle.
time.
It's
Newcastle. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
But that goal was phenomenal, and it was the one time that I felt that Tomiyasu was adventurous in the final third. And so I think it's not so much that he can't do it, but he's just not as dynamic in the runs that
He's
he makes.
conservative.
He's a little bit more static. Like he prefers to do things standing. He doesn't do things necessarily, at least in possession. He prefers to do things standing, and he's not somebody that uses it off the ball. Whereas Ben is a little bit more reliant because I don't think he carries the same security in kind of tight spaces. That he doesn't rely on that kind of thing. And so ultimately what it boils down to is I think Ben White offers you a dynamic option that's a little bit more willing to go up and down the touchline, whereas Tomiyasu is a lot more defensively solid in 1v1 duels, doesn't get done out wide in isolation, but he doesn't offer that same dynamic threat. And so Saka might be slightly more isolated when you start to make those decisions about who's going to start and what each other offers. But I think that Ben White difference has really helped this team control possession a lot more because on the left we've been phenomenal in terms of our fluidity, and Tierney, despite having some moments I think on the ball that he'll want to redo and go again, I really think that fluid off the ball movement is a really nice complement to what the possession based model happens on the right. And I think that's what we're really doing. And I can't wait till we have a little bit more dynamic options both way, that we don't have to be so regimented where the left is off the ball and the right is a little bit more slow possession. But that's just profiles. That's just making sure that we add some people in. But I think it's almost half an hour and we got to get into the highlights. So I think that's tactically what we saw this game, though.
Chris, any final comments before we get into the goals, the highlights?
Nah, I think we've spoken. You guys said everything. I think we've spoken of evidently 27 minutes on the tactics. So I think we've spoken enough on it.
All right. So where do you want to start? Should we start with the penalty? I think that's a good place to start. I mean, was it a penalty? It was quite clearly a manhandling shove. I think it was.
The sack! I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. Was it a penalty, guys?
No, facts. I mean, let's not lie, right? Like if you put hands on another player, it's a foul. If you do so even in the box, it's a penalty. Like this is just logic. Like I don't understand why people are saying that Saka's looking for it. Every attacker is looking for contact in the middle of the box, and this isn't just looking for contact. Mings picks him up and throws him. Can we not try to sugarcoat it? So it's absolutely. I don't understand how VAR can overturn that or not overturn it, rather, is probably the better selection of words. It's ridiculous. It's poor refereeing. I don't know if I really want to go and do it. I think I have a big problem with the refereeing that happened all game, by the way. The referee was awful. And he was getting things out of control. And that Martinelli tackle that happened in the 14th minute was, sure, it was Jacob Ramsey's frustration, but also it was leading. The entire time they were just kicking mercilessly, and they weren't really doing anything. And you know what? Lampard and Gerrard, not to be a dick, but the old dinosaur coaches that believe that they can be player coaches have done this a lot. Everton with Lampard did the exact same tactic. Gerrard now with Villa were doing the exact same tactic about just kicking us to foul. And it wasn't even tactical fouls. They were just fouling for no reason. And the goal that got overturned, we'll get to it, by the way, but literally it got taken back a couple minutes later. The exact same scenario happened with an issue on the goalkeeper, and they pulled it back. So I'll go and vent my frustration down there when we get to that point in the stream.
Before I let Chris go, I'm just going to say, I don't really care about the agendas, whatever. All I ask for is consistency. So if Bernardo Silva can go down with barely a touch on him from Granit Xhaka in January, on January the 1st, if that is a penalty, then surely someone getting literally picked up and thrown on the floor is also a penalty. I'm not asking for, oh, everyone's against us and blah blah blah. All I'm asking for is consistency, and there isn't any. If Granit Xhaka was out of control against Cancelo, Man City away, then the tackle yesterday, where one leg was off the floor and he got a touch of the ball, Granit got a touch of the ball, is also a red card. All I'm asking for is some consistency. If there's consistency, then we're fine. Like apart from that, then we I don't understand why we can't have a problem with it. It's an issue. It's a ridiculous issue. So, Chris, before we move on to the first goal, what do you think?
Well,
Chris?
I saw it back. I saw it back a lot because obviously I made a comp of the Saka performance, and I kept watching. I was like, "This is a penalty." He literally lifted him up. Saka even went to the referee and was like, "Ref, he picked me up. He picked me up." So I thought I was laughing when he did that. I was like, "This guy is so young, man." But yeah, it was a penalty. He got thrown on the floor. Obviously, I'm happy he didn't hurt us. Like it didn't like change the game so much so that we lost. But it's definitely a penalty, and Saka would have got a shot on target if he took the pen.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We still won the game, and it didn't really affect us. But we need those given because I feel like we'll see probably the worst refereeing we've seen under Arteta versus United on Sunday.
Yeah, Chris. What do you? I think you've prepared the pictures. So if you want to narrate them, and we'll have a comment.
Well, so I
We'll
think
do it that way.
the first real big chance in the 10th minute was that Erdegaard free kick. Mush is back. Yeah, the first big chance is Jesus shot in the 10th minute from Erdegaard, quick free kick. So we get the free kick and everyone's sleeping pretty much. Like the ref blew the whistle and instead of Erdegaard stepping back, he just put a nice ball over the top. Jesus is unmarked and he makes a run, takes a very good first touch, and then he takes a shot at a bad angle. And Martinez, who I thought had a very good game, 2 games in a row, our ex-keepers have very good games, and he makes the save. But I think these two things,
Pass it. He needs to pass it, I
quick
reckon,
pass
across.
and the touch, because he was marked by 2 players because Mings isn't the only one that recovered. But I think it was a very quick chance, and it just showed we were on a different wavelength to them very early on. And it didn't result in a goal. It resulted in a corner, which nearly resulted in a goal as well. But what did you guys make of this chance and the smart, quick free kick from Erdegaard when catching everyone off guard?
It's brilliant. I'm going to be very quick. The only thing that I really wanted to do and show was, Martin being a little bit more vertical. And this is just what I'm asking for. It's nothing that he can't do. It's nothing that's not within his power. And he does it here. And I think, look, I'm not too critical with the Jesus chance, really, because I think when he's in goal right there, like a striker is always going to want to put his head down and go. Would I have liked him to cut it across the face of goal? Sure. But his touch kind of takes him wide and decides the chance for him. So I'm not too bad. And I think Emmy does well to cover his near post. Something that, Aaron can maybe has struggled with a little bit this season. But like, all in all, I love the fact that Martin is releasing early to do this. And I think this is something that we could have done last season a lot more.
Yeah, I think the only thing is, I mean, if you go to the next one, Chris, just go to the actual shot being put off. I just think that's this one. Yeah, I just think, like, if I'm being hypercritical, the cutback's on, but he's Gabby Jesus. He wants to score, but
I think the angle's deceiving here, mate. I'll be honest with you. Like when you're in that kind of decision, he's got the cutback covered. Yeah.
I think
I'm just being super harsh. I'm being overly critical. I understand that. Just like from my my first reaction to the chances, like the cutback is on. So I think that it's just like I think that it's a great shot. I think Jesus has got a shot off and he's made a good save leading to a corner. So and we did have a lot of corners. I think it was like 5 in the first 30 minutes or something like this. It was a ridiculous amount of corners because we kept producing shots that they had to basically play out and put behind the goal. So yeah, we were really on it. But I think we move on to the next one.
Yeah, oh, just because this one came directly from this corner that came from the
Mm.
Martinez save. So we made the corner, got headed out, and I wanted to highlight Gabriel, who has been a big attacking threat for a year, but versus Villa, he was
He's the biggest attacking threat in
from
the league
defense.
as a
Yeah,
center back. He is the most influential attacking center back in the league.
yeah, he nearly scored here again. So Saliba, which is such a weird connection, Saliba half space cross to Gabriel, who actually has a good first touch on his chest. Good first touch on his chest, receives, takes the shot, is deflected by Ezri Konsa, and then the shot goes wide. But it just shows like Gabriel was very potent or very like aggressive versus Villa. He didn't get the goal. He got 2 shots on target for a centre back, which is a lot, and they were both shots, not headers. But yeah, I think this is another thing to highlight that Gabriel was very. His presence was very known, despite be going up against 6'5" Mings. But what did you make of this chance that came 40 seconds after the Jesus shot?
The only thing that I'm going to add here is it shows our commitment to adding bodies in the box, whether that's Gabriel or an untraditional center back being in the box. It just shows that we are far more committed to flooding the gates, so to speak, and making sure that we get bodies at the top of the D. And look, it is an interesting connection and all that. It's very funny in terms of these are the two center backs and teams that have been doing it. You would ideally think, oh, is a fullback or a central midfielder going to be making those kind of crosses? But I think Saliba's impetus and possession has been really influential, not just in this instant, Chris, but I think also building up. Like he's been very responsible for speeding our tempo of play and getting the ball into the box a lot quicker. And we're supplementing that with just more bodies in the box. I think last year I would typically count maybe 2, max 3 people in the box, and we're consistently getting 3 or more people in the box for chances. And I think that just adds chaos. It adds another layer to our potency in attack.
Look, I just think that if we're looking at this, all I'm going to say is, who needs Victor Osimhen? You've got Gabriel here
Oh,
looking to
Mush, sorry, really
get our
quickly,
shots.
Gabriel is more potent since Virgil van Dijk's been in the league. Even this Gabriel point about him being the best attacking center back in the league, it dates pre Virgil van Dijk as well.
I think Virgil was very like present when like Trent was getting 13 assists.
Gabriel has more goals though,
Well,
mate. Like it's crazy. Like I don't think people realize how potent he actually is in terms of attacking output. And it's not just this instance about him getting in the box, getting shots away, and his aerial ability that's obvious for most to see. But he is somebody that even since 2018, Virgil van Dijk's, since he's been in the league himself, because Gabriel came, around that time as well. And he's had more goals than Virgil van Dijk. And so I just think that he doesn't get talked about enough in terms of our attacking threat.
I couldn't even get off my joke, but whatever. The
good,
only thing
I
is,
saw it.
good.
Good. I heard it. I heard it coming, and you're done.
Well,
You're done.
Virgil did. Well, Gabriel did have 15 or 5 goals last season, and Virgil did have 5 as well in 1920 when they won the league. But yeah, it was equal, I think. And before Karen makes his joke, I'm going to move on to the next big chance of the game.
this is
Um,
no free speech.
this came from decent press on Kamara. Jesus and Erdegaard crowd him here. And Erdegaard, again, was quick to get on the ball. He gets on the ball straight after. And Kamara is now running back, trying to stop Jesus. But again, we get numbers into the box. Erdegaard makes a nice pass around the corner to Jesus, who this time doesn't attempt to shoot. This time he attempts to make a pass to the back post to Martinelli, which Emi Martinez, again, who had a very good game, managed to parry it. And one issue with him versus us was his parries were going into the feet of our players. He wasn't parrying it away. Like his parries went straight back into play, and it resulted in an Erdegaard shot that was blocked because there were so many men, and then another Erdegaard shot that was blocked with his right foot. So I think this was very quick, very smart, good transition play from Erdegaard and Jesus. Could have resulted in a goal, but I think they just did. They just had too many men back to block the shots. But what did you make of this chance in the 15th minute? It was the third big chance of the game.
I think what I really liked about it is the pace of ball on Odegaard is phenomenal. That outside of the boot kind of touch to really kind of kill the ball, but at the same time deliver it with tempo. I think Jesus does brilliantly. I will say, I think again, Jesus makes the chance, Chris. Like I'll be honest with you, like when you're in
Yeah,
this
he
position
actually
here,
he barged what's his name, Mings
he
off the
barged
wall.
Mings over off the ball, and he's so good physically. I to be fair, you know what it is. I didn't realize. Well, no, I've seen it. I've seen what he's done. I didn't realize his consistency in being able to shove people off the ball. And it has nothing to do with his frame. It's just his core strength is phenomenal. That's what it is, because he's beating people that he has no business beating, and he does it consistently. He's been doing it not just on Mings, who by the way is a horrible, horrible central defender. He should be put deep in the depths of Tartarus himself. But I'm so glad that he did that to Mings of all people. But yeah, I think Jesus makes the chance though, mate. Like ultimately here, we actually don't have numbers. Villa actually do well
Yeah.
here, despite having a transition. And Jesus makes the chance on his own. And he was doing that all game. And I think you kind of described the chance really well. You look, Emi Martinez. I think he had a good game, but I'm not gonna lie, there was some instances, especially with the Gabriel idiocy, that just makes people frustrated. But the parrying into a dangerous area, I don't know if he's got much of another chance. I'll be honest with you, because Gabriel Jesus gets such venom on the cross. It's kind of a case where do you push out from there?
Well, he was going to get the ball, but there was a miscommunication between him and Kamara, who wanted to clear it, but he wanted to grab the ball and pounce on it. But
on the first parry, right? But I think initially Jesus gets such good purchase. I think it's one of those half crosses, Chris, where it's a half cross shot. Like I'm just going to drill it across the face of goal and see what happens, which is excellent. And I think that's the big thing that I took away. Like when you've got a player, by the way, and we're going to highlight this in the preview, that can make chances out of nothing in transition like this. This is where I can see Gabriel Jesus, exactly what you see on this picture, happening to Tyrion Lannister, on the weekend, and it's going to be beautiful. I just think that you're going to see this quite a bit throughout the season, where you're going to see us just fire into channels and basically see Gabriel Jesus sacrifice chances. And we don't have numbers. I do want to highlight this. We don't have numbers here. Villa should be very disappointed for allowing what they did to happen here. And it's one of those times where you're just banging on the table. Why can't we just get the ball in the back of the net here? Because it was a very good chance.
What did you make of this smart chance? Or smart pass by Erdogan and then the chance?
I mean, it's a good pass by Odegaard, but the thing is, you can see what I think is so great is, as I think, just to lead off George's point, Jesus has that body positioning where even if he's not insanely strong, he will get himself into a position where he is likely to win any ball against any centre back. He has this ability just to hassle and harry and get his body to a position where he is going to be the one that wins the ball. And that is so interesting to see and so good to see. And look, we're playing against a centre back that can't ride a roller coaster the weekend, and that will really help against these kind of players, because if you look at how he's a very press resistant and we'll get into it tomorrow, but we have someone who is an incredible presser versus a press resistant centre back, which is not the case here. This is a case where you can quite easily just win the ball because Mings, he just can't turn well and he can't get the ball back well. So it'll be interesting to see going forward how defenders deal with him.
I will do no such thing. I will be just as confident. It's United. I'm sorry. You guys get 2 games, United and Tottenham. That's it.
Well, yeah, George will be overconfident. Well, the confidence is justified.
It's not even overconfidence, especially when you look at the record with Manchester United and you look at the tactical battles. But yeah, sure, I'll make some jokes about driving.
So we'll move on from George's jokes because we don't need jokes. 22nd minute, Erdegaard receives from Lokonga in the middle of the park, and he does well to play a pass around the corner to Xhaka, who bullies off.
He pushed him. He would just.
I don't know who that is, but he bullied off whoever that is. And
it was Ramsey.
It is Ramsey. He bullied off Ramsey onto the ground, plays a pass to Martinelli, who then looks to cross, and then this happened. And when this happened, I was George knows I was going livid when he missed. I was saying stuff like Saka's the worst player in the world and all that stuff. But I thought he did the exact same thing versus Villa last year from a Tavares cross, where he just bounced right in front of him and the shot flies over the bar. Like he just can't seem to control the shot when it bounces right in front of him. What did you make of this chance? And arguably probably the biggest chance of the game, the easiest chance
No,
to
not
score.
arguably. It's factually the biggest chance. Like
Easiest
it's an
chance to score,
open
and
net. He just skies it. It's so poor. It's unbelievably poor. But I think it's a player that's been working himself into form. And all I see right now is like he's getting himself into positions. And this was Saka's best game, just in generally. In terms of everything off the ball, bar finishing. This was Saka's best game. And so I think there's nothing really tactical that I'm going to say here, Chris. Like it's just such a bad miss. It is what it is. There's nothing tactical that you're going to do. Saka on form doesn't do this. He controls it well, and boom, it's a goal. But I think he was working himself into play, and I think what I will highlight at least is in possession, Saka was creating qualitative advantages all over the park. He was back to his old self dribbling in terms of his control, taking on players. It was excellent. It was his best game, like I said, so far this season. Everything but the finishing. And that will come. I think he's at a position now, Chris, where it's essentially a kind of case where he's just going to snatch at chances until that chance goes in. Once that chance goes in, the floodgates are going to open, and it's going to happen again. Look, you're not going to critique the guy that was the greatest U21 goal scorer in the top 5 leagues. Last year. So I think it's ridiculous to say he doesn't have it, but it's just form right now, and he just needs it to get in, essentially. But it is poor. Like it's probably the biggest miss of the season. It's not even just the biggest miss that we've had, so far. It's definitely the biggest miss of the season, just in general.
It might be, yeah, but what did you make of this miss, Karen? Because I was livid, especially
inside the 6-yard box. Like it can't get much poorer.
It's just not good. It's not a good. It's not a good finish at all. He's either he takes his eye off the ball, or he doesn't control it, or he's not leaning back. So it's just poor control from him. But I want to highlight 2 things. One, the ability from Xhaka to get in through the lines and get the ball to Martinelli, and Martinelli producing that cross. I think what people aren't realizing this year is Martinelli is getting in his playmaking bag. He's looking up more. He's looking up a lot more actually than he was in previous seasons, which we've always said it's going to be tricky for him because he has such that dynamic heads down dribbling that will get him into great situations and get him into great shooting areas, but it's not so much as conducive to a playmaker. But this year he seems to be relishing it. I think he's relishing getting into these kind of positions, either at the byline where he can take on a man and try and produce a cutback, or run to byline and get a little dinky cross in, or even try and get a shot for himself. So I think it's a massive, not just a game changer, but this is Martinelli's season. I was talking in a group chat earlier about how it's really could be his breakout season, and it really can, because he seems like he's got everything ready to go. He's just geared for it now.
The delivery is phenomenal, isn't it? Like I think that's one of his biggest improvements this season. So it's not just the technical security kind of in contact in the final third. I think Martinelli's deliveries have been far more consistent this season. I still think decision making wise, he has some question marks. He hasn't made all the correct decisions necessarily, and I just think that's a result of him being on the wing as opposed to kind of in central spaces, and that kind of dynamic. It makes him a little bit question his final ball sometimes, but when he delivers it, the technique has been consistent all season. It's been phenomenal. So, we will listen to the people and move on from this pick. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, and then next was the goal. Martinelli was heavily involved as well. He received here from Tierney, and I just wanted to highlight how much space Xhaka ran into, and how Martinelli slowly, obviously, built up, and he does this idle dribbling where he's touching the ball with his inside of his feet, trying to bait the defender, and he played a nice ball around the corner to Xhaka, who in the first instance was right next to Kamara, and then is just completely alone, and then he plays a deflected pass across, which was deflected by Konsa, and then Martinez again parries it into the feet of Jesus, and we end up with a goal in the 30th minute. What did you make of this goal? Because for me, I think it was coming. And it was just another. Obviously, we were outmanned in the box, but we had 4 men in the box, and Martinelli was heavily involved again.
Really quickly, what it was is that quick switch out wide out to Martinelli, and I think Martinelli does the rest, guys. Like, ultimately when you get into this kind of position here, one person that I want to highlight that's probably not the biggest in this move, but Sambi Lokonga and his quick release, that was happening all game. He was having I think a very good game in possession, Sambi Lakanga. And I wanted to highlight him, especially with his reintroduction and what the whole Partey and number 5 issue about, in or not. Sambi had an excellent, phenomenal game. Quick switches out from right to left was excellent all game. And I think here, the move starts with Kieran Tierney releasing very quickly. He looks up, sees Martinelli, sees that he's got an advantage, and just feeds him. And then when Martinelli gets it out wide here, I think it's a phenomenal decision to slip Xhaka in, who makes an excellent run. Yet again, he's somebody that, is making that run all season. And, there's no kind of confusion why he's already totaled his entire career goals. Not career, sorry, his best season goal and assist totals, already. Because Granit Xhaka has been making this kind of run, stretching the center backs, and he's been doing it phenomenally well. Like, he's evolving. I don't think enough people talk about Granit Xhaka's role in this system, but also in this team right now. He's playing unbelievably well. And I think him and Martinelli together on that side have been excellent. It's just a simple ball in. I don't think Martinelli does anything special. I don't think Granit does anything special. It's a simple move. And, again, Emmy, by the way, parrying poorly. Just to follow up, Chris, on your earlier concern, that's, again, the reason here. Like, I think he should do better, personally.
That shouldn't go straight to the feet of the striker.
It shouldn't. Like, he should kill it. And if you're not killing it, you kill it outside, right? Like, you guide it into a corner. And so I think his parrying decisions weren't great, but we exploited that. So excellent to see it. And Jesus is alive, right? Like, that is all that it is. He's going to be a nuisance, Jesus. So for me, excellent move, but also not the most complicated. I must be honest with you. I think we had better moves that deserved a goal. For example, that Saka chance deserved a goal a lot more than this one. But I was so glad that when it happened, because it was a case of us toying with our food a little bit. And I was like, okay, we need a goal before half, please. I don't want to continue this without a goal.
Well, yeah. I think it was a good goal. Jesus got the goal. I think I was happy for him because he didn't score last game. He didn't score. And Karen, what did you make of the goal before we speak about the next big chance? Which,
I mean, it's a typical Jesus goal, hassling, harrying, getting the ball back, and just putting it in the back of the net. It's not something I think a lot of people are. I saw a thread online about someone saying, "Oh, Haaland's only scoring tap-ins." You have to create easy chances that can be easily replicated. That's how you win games consistently. Doing 25, 30-yard worldies is all well and good, but you need to get something that you can do again and again and again so that you can beat teams consistently. So this is something you can do every game. And that's why I like this.
I was going to say on Haaland, like him scoring, if he scored 9 tap-ins, I'd rather him score 9 tap-ins than 5 good other goals like everyone else. Because he's 4 goals ahead of everyone else in the league. But I want to go on to the next chance, which highlights what we were talking about earlier of White. Here he receives from Saliba, and you can see
he's high and wide again, right in the middle in midfield.
And in the middle is a Lokonga Xhaka pivot, which Xhaka's on the right side weirdly. But yes, I want to change the angle, and White carries the ball up the pitch. He makes a nice pass to Odegaard, who tried the same pass versus Fulham, but it was back post to Eddie, opposed to centrally with Jesus. Jesus doesn't really win the aerial duel, but it bounces towards Emmy, who does make the save. He does make the save, and then Saka goes through him, and then Saka misses. He missed the ball completely. I'll say that for him. He missed the ball completely. He didn't score, but this was just another, he missed the ball completely, and then Cash clears the ball. Tierney takes a shot that didn't do anything, so I didn't put it in. But Saka missed again. This was a lot harder than the other chance. He didn't really have a choice really to do anything much here apart from run at the ball, and he misses it. But what did you make of the overall move and White being so high and influential across the pitch, really?
I mean, this is what I was trying to highlight earlier in the tactics, so I won't go too hard onto it. It's all about White. It's all about him being high and wide and being able to really start that move and really provide that dynamic. I think with Odegaard too, I was really happy again to see him release in the final third. This is something that we just asked him for him to do. I still think that, the lofted ball wasn't the right decision at that moment. I would have preferred a slipped in ball because it's really, you leave Jesus at a disadvantage at that opportunity to really finish when you do that so close to goal. But look, we make the most of that chance. And again, I think Bukayo, He has to do better in terms of finishing his dinner. We know about this, but really, that's the only critique that you can have in the move because, again, Odegaard does excellent to release the ball quick. And then Ben White is the one that really starts that move.
No, honestly, we've said that Bukayo doesn't have the best ball striking. He's never been someone that you can say that he's an amazing ball striker.
I don't.
And I feel like
I think he's got excellent ball striking. I just think that right now he's not making the right decisions, and he's been starved of a goal. He's latching on to chances. Like when you see what he's
he's
doing.
not a Madison, right? And he's not like that kind of like crazy
No, but
backlift.
he's got a short back lift. He does. Like, you know what it is? It's when he's on the run. That's what I've noticed. When he is standing, he's got an excellent back lift. How many times in the middle of the box have you seen him out of nothing with a very short back lift release when he's standing and he hits a
There
post
have been
with
times
great
like
power?
Norwich, Leeds, etc. Like there have been the games where goals where he's just like done a couple of people stood and then just
He struggles on
had
the
a lovely
run.
shot.
That I'll agree with you with. He doesn't seem to shape it, and he thinks about it too much. On the left, though, that's not the case. He's got excellent ball striking. He's a phenomenal finisher off the left when he plays left
Newcastle
wing.
are a perfect example.
Well, just in general, I think when you see him on the left, he's just far more decisive in the final third. And I think on the right, he's a little bit more creative. And I think, but on the right, though, I think he's not as convicted as he is on the left. And that I think is a little bit more of a case of him learning the position. I will say he grew up on the left. He grew up as a left winger. So, that I think is really the big difference there.
Yeah, yeah, go on.
I was going to say that wasn't the last chance of the half. The last chance was the Martinelli volley.
Yeah, beautiful volley.
Oh my god, goal
I
of the
wanted to
decade that
highlight
goes
something
in.
before, which really I think went unnoticed. But when Tierney receives, Xhaka just bursts. He just burst up the field because he realized that Tierney is very willing to cross. Tierney receives, Xhaka bursts up the field into that space between the two centre backs. When Tierney crosses it, Xhaka is right behind Ezri Konsa. He does the layoff and then Martinelli makes the volley and then obviously the save which shocked everyone, as you can see behind Martinez in the goal. It shocked everyone. It was a great save. I wish it went in. I would prefer this to go into the Jesus goal, but this was just another big chance that was very different to the other chances. And Martinelli's just super confident right now. I think this shows.
Yeah, but you know what? Really quickly, I think this is the move, Chris. Like we've been talking about, Xhaka and his half space movement. We basically told everybody the story of this game was half space movement, and this is it. I think, look, people look at Xhaka and they still basically characterize him as what he came in as, and I think this is the big problem. Like this is his evolution. He's basically receiving in the middle of the half space, and he's making these runs that are causing the opposition's problems. Like I don't know if we get an 8 that gives us this variety, by the way. And he's showing that he can do this in a characteristically player that people describe as not agile, as somebody that, isn't able to necessarily have athletic advantage, but he does it with just intelligent movement. And he's been doing this all season. And it's why he's got all of his goals and assists. And this is just another one, right? Like he did it for the goal, right? And he's doing it now for the layoff to Martinelli. Like our best chances, ironically, are coming from Xhaka in the final third. How many people said that in preseason? And that was the biggest reason for why we supposedly wanted targets to offer us this, but he's offering it to us, and he's not just doing it once, twice. It's consistent. So, yeah, I just wanted to really have that little segment and highlight Granit Xhaka and basically praise him because I don't see enough of it on the timeline. And between this and Kieran Tierney's movement, I think were underrated aspects that I didn't quite see highlighted on the timeline and from people just in general.
Yeah, I mean, this the main thing about this move here is you can see that it's like people are criticizing Tierney's technical security, and I feel like you see this ball, and yeah, it's not something that is too insane, but you see that he has the ability to make not just because I think he gets accused of this run to the byline cross, run to the byline cross. He doesn't do anything else. I think he's developed an inside game where he runs. He can be an inside a bit more in his in build up. He can go. He can run into out very well. He can produce crosses from.
He froze, right?
He froze. Yeah. Why don't you take it forward there, Chris?
Well, yeah. 45 minutes in, this was the stats really. 67% possession, 15 shots to 2. What did you make of the first half? Because that was really the last chance of the half. I just wanted to show everyone the stats. Yeah, 15 shots to 2, and we had, I think, 4 on target. I'd assume something like that. and a lot of them were blocked, like 7 or 6 blocked. But what did you make of the first half and the dominance, really?
I think that Villa looked like Curran right now. They were just scared, and quickly get your screenshots in, before he realizes. But look, I think that half was phenomenal, Chris. Like I told you before, I think this is one of the best 90 minutes that I've seen, from the team in a while. And I think that first half performance was just phenomenal. It was dominant. It was tempoed. It was absolutely phenomenal. I think that everybody was just operating at a different level here, both on and off the ball. We talked about all of like the little nuances, but Chris, there's not much more I can really say. It was the happiest I've felt in years. By the way, this kind of tempo is like something I haven't seen us do because a lot of people were talking about the changes between Mikel, Pep, like who are the influences and what is our attack like. This isn't Pep attack, by the way. What we noticed in that first half was barrage after barrage of attack, and it was quite vertical. Like I really don't know if people realize how well we played. I urge everybody to go back and rewatch because it wasn't just pot shots. It wasn't just pot chances. Like we were playing some phenomenal football. So yeah, I have zero real issues. And by the way, that continued in the second half, despite Villa getting a little bit more possession here and there. In general, the tempo just continued.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, there
yeah.
weren't really any big chances. I think for the first 25 minutes of the half, there weren't any really big chances. We had shots,
Yeah.
but not really big ones, which threatened. So I know Karen froze. Did you want to say anything else before we?
No, I just my Chrome completely shut down for some reason. I don't know what that was, but yeah. And all I was saying was Tierney much better technically than people think he is. I think that was the main point I was trying to say. Should we move on to the goal? I think
There's not much
No,
announced here. I'm going to go.
I wanted to give Villa because they had a chance. They did that Bailey counter attack chance, which came from a Saliba knockdown. But these are just that 70 minutes in. They still only had 2 shots. So the first 25 minutes where they supposedly dominated the game, they didn't have a
Yeah.
shot. They had all their shots in the first half. We had 3 shots in this period. Obviously 8 shots on target of the 18. But yeah, let me get into it. So Ramsey receives here in space, but is in transition because Tierney is going to be pulled out wide by Bailey. He's essentially has space to run, and that he does. He plays a pass here to Bailey, who then takes the shot on his right foot, which isn't really a. I think Ramsdale's in a good position. It was straight out Ramsdale.
And so is Tierney. Tierney's tracking him excellently. It's good play. I think it's good play by Villa, but it's equally good defensive response by us.
Yeah, and Ramsdale saves it, but that was their real big chance of the game. But something I wanted to, I don't know how to speak about is how do you feel before I go into the goal? How do you think our transition game was overall versus Villa? Because I feel they didn't really create much chances with their 3 shots in 71 minutes. They didn't create much. So how do you feel we contained them before we get into the goals?
I think, well, excellently. Obviously, I think what they attempted to do was block central spaces, and we don't care. Like we can create wide or in the middle of the park, and it doesn't matter to us. And I think that variety is something that Villa can't say. And so Villa really rely on transition moments themselves because they don't have the technical ability to create wave after wave of attack. And so they're going to rely on lung bursting runs from McGinn or Ramsey to really set their wingers alight. And they're going to hope 1v1 that they do something. And that wasn't really working for them. They essentially said, that meme with the stick, do something. That's essentially what they were doing in terms of their shuttlers. They were just passing off to the wings for 1v1 opportunities and saying, okay, go on, do something for us. Really quickly, I just think Odegaard had a really nice free kick. I don't think it was ever going to really threaten Emmy and around the 55th minute mark. But then when you build Tommy Asu replaced Ben White in the 67th minute, and I think Tommy had a phenomenal cameo. It was him again, the best I've seen him this season. He looked very, very fit, and he was dynamic. He was a lot better on the ball as well. Like I noticed that as well. Like, he was killing the passes once again. He was very strong in duels, but that's what I expect. Tommy Asu is our best 1v1 duel defender in the squad. So it's not something that I'm worried about him working back from fitness, but just in general about containing them, Chris, I think that response, though, of Tommy and taking off Ben, who was slowing down a little bit, was very important. And I think that was, again, and I'm going to praise Mikel on subs, which nobody wants to do. These were very good subs this game. Chris, because it
Mm.
wasn't even just Tomiyasu, but Emil Smith Rowe was waiting to come on from the
For
70th
10
minute.
minutes.
Like for 10 minutes, he wanted to come on before the issue that we had, with the goal. So I think for me, we had very proactive subs this game. It was just a fact that we didn't have an opportunity to get the ball out. Emil Smith Rowe was waiting for 10 minutes. He was supposed to get on 10 minutes earlier than he did. But I think the Tomiyasu sub was very smart. It's what stopped that transition. And so when we started seeing Ramsey and McGinn being able to shuttle and run, we basically added 2 transition runners and 1 transition stopper, right? So we added Eddie, we added Emil, and then we added Tommy. Like that was the response to what the game state was happening. And I thought it was perfect. I think, and again, Eddie probably came on later than I wanted. But again, that was also sub related. Like these guys were waiting in the subs for a while and we were waiting for them to come in. I think a lot of people just cite the minute that they came in without looking at the context because they were lining up with the 4th official for a while, especially Smith Rowe.
Well, yeah, I think we should just get into the goal because it was a weird one.
I think you just applaud the effort. It's so weird. I think, Aaron has to do better, obviously. When that kind of stuff happens, you got to dominate your line. But, again, I'm going to say this, Chris, really quickly, and I'm not going to say it again. This is a refereeing error. I'm sorry. Like, you can't manhandle the goalkeeper. And in fact, it's written in the rules. Mate, if you impede a goalkeeper from claiming a cross from a corner kick, it is impeding. You cannot do that. And then 10 minutes later, they call it back on the exact same issue about impeding the goalkeeper. It's ridiculous. It's just, I don't want to say corruption, but it is corruption. Like, mate, it's factually not.
I really don't like that you always say, I don't want to say this, but you say it.
I don't care anymore because you know what? At the end of the day, why are we beating around the bush? You can't do this. You can't hold on to the goalkeeper, guys. Regardless of whether or not you want to say that Aaron should do better, he should be stronger, yada, yada. You cannot put your hands on a goalkeeper and stop him from claiming the ball. You can't. You want to go shoulder to shoulder? No problem. But you cannot hold a goalkeeper or hold somebody else in general. You cannot do that in the middle of the box. But I'm going to credit Douglas Luiz because it's a phenomenal technique. To get that whip and to do that, I don't think we credit people enough on that. Like, that's insane technique. But it's categorically a foul. Like, let's just say that how it is.
Yeah,
it is a foul. It's just there's nothing else to say. It's a foul.
So you guys both think that the goal shouldn't have stood then?
Chris, it's in the laws.
No,
tell me like the opposition view.
I'm playing devil's advocate, George.
No, I know, but I'm also aggressively responding to the devil's advocate theory. Like, can anybody give me a legitimate example about why this shouldn't have stood? Let's ignore the penalty, which is also on its own ridiculous. No, this should not have stood. They allowed it.
You should tell me a reason why it shouldn't have stood.
Yeah, because it shouldn't have stood. I don't think that this should have been a goal.
No, you mean you should tell me a reason why it should have stood.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's what I mean, in terms of what we should see. Yeah, I don't understand.
Unless you really think it's a goal.
No, it's getting ridiculous to the point where, like, and it's Mings again, the bastard. Like, it is what I hate Tyrone Mings so much. I think he's the.
It was actually your Curran's boy, Kamara.
On this one. But I don't understand why we're allowing this kind of incompetency to go. Like, I don't understand it. Like, we have to have an explanation for it, and it's in the rules. It's literally in the rules that you're not allowed to hold a goalkeeper. Like, it's outlined. So I don't understand. But
the funniest thing to me is when it's Aston Villa, it's always a corner. Either it's Aubameyang trying to make a joke with Tyrone Mings and getting done, or now with this. So it's funny. But what I want to talk about is the goal, the second goal, because under 100 seconds it was. Under 100 seconds
it was
later,
1 minute. It was in 1 minute.
The one thing I will say before, I'm sure you've got it, Chris, but the one thing I want to say is if that pass from Gabriel was from Saliba or White or Zinchenko, the whole timeline would be going crazy about it. Look at him break lines with this, because it's Gabriel and everyone thinks he's a bozo. No one cares. So a bit more respect on Gabriel's name. Sorry, a centre back is not born to be created or whatever bullshit flowery language, or that there's some sort of elite or super elite and super this and super. He's just a centre back that he's very good, and there's no need to be hyperbolic every game. Gabriel isn't a bozo. He's not the best centre back in the world, but he's a very, very, very good centre back. And the flowery language about describing how people have tried to misprofile and misunderstand and not really engage with how good this guy is it's silly. This guy is great technically. You've seen multiple games,
He
multiple
did it for
seasons.
Martinelli in back-to-back games after he got that mistake. After the
Yeah,
mistake, he was phenomenal between the lines. He's the one that forced the issue with Martinelli on that chance. So I
I'm
agree.
just I'm
He's
just
been doing it
I'm
for
I'm
time.
just fed up of the 30 tweet threads on how he's not a good centre back. I'm fed up of it. He's fine.
I don't
There's
know
no
the
need.
average per game, by the way, mate, but it's 10 to 63. We are the most fouled team in the league with 63 fouls, and only 10 of those are yellow cards. So I don't know if anyone can do the math. 1 out of 6. Um, that's essentially what it is. So it's
It's bullshit.
ridiculous.
Well, yeah, there were a lot of fouls at halftime. It was 14 fouls for Aston Villa, 7 to us, but we had the yellow card and they had one as well. So I want to get into the goal. Obviously, the Gabriel pass was a great one. This was just straight from our kickoff, really.
Mm.
It was passed to by Saliba, passed to Lokonga, Lokonga passed to him, ball straight over the top. Martinelli gets the ball under control very well, very quickly, and then he goes 1v1 at Cash, who had a horrible game. He goes
He was
1v1.
scared of him. He just stands off him.
He cut in, and I hate. Well, I loved it personally, but I think it's very stupid to give him and Saka, both sides they were doing it. They were giving them a lot of space to run at them. We'll see it in the goal, but they both kept giving a lot of space for them to run at him, and we abused it. He passes to Tomiyasu, who receives well, plays it to Saka, and then so that was Saka plays the ball back across, and look how much space Cash leaves Martinelli, which for a guy who used to be a poacher when he first came at Arsenal, this is a gift really. And then he does the finish, and I saw a lot of people complaining about Emi Martinez, and I thought it was absurd that he even got close to it because he put it near the roof of the net and he nearly
It's
saved
just because
it.
it looked funny. It's because it looked
Yeah,
funny. That's what it
it
was.
resulted in the Martinelli goal and then 2-1 Arsenal in 1 minute. But I felt that was a great goal, a great move from Gabriel to evade all the build up and just make it a 1v1 game. And then Martinelli celebrate how he always does, runs into the fans. But what did you make of the goal and how it was orchestrated through the 1v1s from Saka and Martinelli?
I think it's just a nice through line after somebody that was really poor in the final third in the first half, missing probably the miss of the season, to go and do one of the typical assists that he does. He's 1v1 and the presence to kind of look up and see that gap. By the way, Chris, like you talk how Cash didn't run, but it's another thing to in the moment recognize that's the gap to place. It was a great ball, and it was in tight quarters again, by the way, and it was standing still. And this is what I talk about with his backlift, by the way. He gets excellent purchase, and I think that Martinelli, look, it's a smart finish, but it's all about the cross here. It's the pace of cross that allows him to basically just place it and orient it. He just redirects it. That's all he does. And he does it from a standing start, and it's just excellent. It's excellent play. It's really good movement, really quick out ball from Gabriel. But again, I was kind of highlighting, I think Sambi Lokonga is another player that did that quite a bit this game. It was definitely something that we used to exploit. But their fullbacks were absolutely terrified of our wingers, and they gave them space, like you said, Chris, but that was just out of fear. Definitely wasn't instruction. So it was really good. I think the last thing that I'm going to do, and it's going to tie into my overall thoughts on the game just generally as well, is I think that this team has a different level of mental resilience. And I was saying, for me, the biggest benefit that we've seen is just the response to conceding, but the response to going, down. That's the one thing I don't know if we've seen because we've been so good and we've just been up consistently, right? But the response to
Fulham.
yeah, like we saw it against Fulham once, and I don't know if that's enough to basically be conclusive about this statement, but we've now seen it 5 times this season where this team has had a negative game state, whether they went ahead or whether we conceded a poor goal, and the response to the team and to the individual players as well. Gabriel, who we've seen last year, put his head down, by the way. This is a young team that can do it at negative game states, but they don't do it this season. This is not the same team. And I think the mentality of it, is absolutely incredible. That's what the one thing that I really wanted to say. I think we now have evidence in terms of the Saliba own goal, the Gabriel mistake, Fulham, this the response to conceding is absolutely not just necessary, but it's been a new thing. This team has developed it. And I think when you cite 5 examples in 5 games, it's no longer something that you can just say it's coincidence. Like, I think that is the evolution of a young team becoming experienced, right? Like that is what you're going to get. And I think everybody was complaining about it, but look, they're showing it. And when you combine that with the tempo and the manner that we really controlled this game, it was utter domination. It was just beautiful to see. But enough eulogy from me.
Chris, final thoughts, and then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, I think it was a dominant performance, but it just goes back to show something I said at the start of the season. I think we'll be a very good team in general play, but will we be clinical enough consistently to make the edge? So far, we have been 5 games. We've been clinical enough to make the edge. But I think, well, as Yo-Yo said, we're leaving games too
Goals on the
close.
pitch.
We're not killing teams off, and we're leaving games. Like Leicester was the only real one where we conceded. It was 3-1. Like the game was done. The game was really done after the 3-1. But we're leaving it too close where goals could be like, oh, if this happens. But we've bounced back very well. The longest it's taken us is 8 minutes to score a goal back after conceding. We're doing very well. Like that Martinelli one was in less than 2 minutes. And he himself has done that twice this season already.
Yeah.
So I think we've been very good at that. The resilience has been very good, very different to last year where, for example, versus City, if we play them now, I'd be confident of getting another goal after them going 1-1 rather than conceding straight away. But I just think the resilience and dominance was very good to see, and I hope it continues.
I mean, for me, because then I'll give it to George to sign off. But for me, I think the whole performance was very, very controlled. We dominated both centrally and in wide areas. We didn't allow them really to have much. I mean, for that second goal, the minute Martinelli takes that ball down, it's cash money. You see that how to get that he can get past him easily, and it just
Look how
Saka
happy you are with yourself, man.
I'm very happy with myself. Then because you can see the other one. Look at him. Look how unhappy he is. He's very unhappy. That makes me happy. So, but yeah, in terms of a very, very controlled performance, a very dominant performance, we're just getting better. We keep on getting better. So, yeah, that's the main thing for me. And then now go and sign off, Robo, and we can get out of here.
Absolutely. And guys, look, the games are coming thick and fast. Just as a quick review in terms of the prediction table, I don't know if that was long enough, so I'll just give you guys a chance to see that again. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not.
We were all wrong with the 2-0
one more time. And so, we're still keeping that lead at the top as we always do. But guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. We have a lot of stuff coming up. The one thing that I did want to say really quickly, as a big credit to some of the tactical stuff that we saw, a big credit to Aaron Catterson-Reed, a good friend of ours at the Read the Game. You can find him, and the description, or his account will be in the description as well as kind of in the comments here. But big thank you to kind of some of the tactical picks that we saw, which were excellent. But guys, it's that time. It's almost an hour and 20 minutes. We thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications to know, in fact, when we do upload. You can find me at GeorgeV_AFC. You can find Chris at CKFTBL or at CKFootball. And then, of course, Curran, you can find him at CurranBOP. On YouTube, we're Ball Over Passion. And, on Twitter, we're at BOP Footy. So, guys, thank you so much. Of course, tomorrow, for anybody that is still here, we're going to be doing the Manchester United preview tomorrow. I am sorry. It's going to happen and it's going to be good. So, guys, if you're new to Ball Over Passion, this is the one time that, I kind of lose it a bit along with Spurs. I am sorry. It is what it is. And Yumi, I'm not going to keep that warning. We are going to offer a very big statement performance, and I can't wait. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us, and we hope you guys join us tomorrow for that preview. So we're going to sign off. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.